All right, Serenity wins. We like Serenity wins. We're from outer space, from a different galaxy. We like listening to our brother. Hey, everyone, welcome. I'm not saying I'm an alien, and obviously aliens are my brothers and sisters. But hey, who am I to say that I'm not an alien, right? I know I've alienated, I see, pas capable de dire ça. I've alienated a few people. Yeah, you don't know how to speak too, so obviously that's like annoying. It is perhaps. Welcome to another edition. That's right. If you're listening to this podcast now, you've probably been listening to the other ones earlier on. And although there's 2 tapings and 1 live session on TikTok, that is, there's actually a few days in between both. So, without further ado, let me just get right into it. My show is about having the courage to transform my life when I almost lost everything. Perhaps an inspiration to some, a warning to others. This weekly true life experiment might help a co-dependent, be it alcohol, drugs, video games, food, or even sex. Oh, James. Struggling to survive. With friends like Batman Trump and Vilnoosh, our savvy tech guy from Sri Lanka. Oh, thank you very much. We're sure to always keep it down to earth and fun. But when Trump, Christopher Walken, Batman, or Sean Connery show up on the podcast, all bets are off. That same imaginative drive that brought me to drinking for over 20 years is now part of my recovering process. So why not invite Potus, Batman, and James Bond? Oh, James, on my podcast. Join us as we laugh, smile, and ponder at life's mysteries, chuckle our failures, and rejoice our aha moments, and wonder what's life's next big reveal. A crazy date? A past life romantic encounter? An illicit, illegal, sexually charged proposal? Who knows? So keep listening. Hey, thanks for watching and sharing. I'm your host. I guess I'm Phoenix, and you're watching, listening to Serenity Wins. That's right. It's a podcast. So if you happen to be listening on YouTube, make sure you're doing something else. Like maybe you're driving over to work, or maybe you're gardening in the back, or maybe you're cooking, or maybe you're taking care of your lovely ones. Whatever. Just make sure it's somewhere in the background and you hear the voice. And I promise you, if ever there's something specifically visual that, I need to show you, I will let you know, and I will advise you to, hey, now's the time for you to watch the screen. So, today's episode, let's talk about that. Let's first of all get into the Serenity Prayer, as we always do, open the show with. Dear power source, whatever words you'd like to put there, you might not even put a word, maybe you just feel it inside. Dear, give me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change those that I can, and the wisdom to understand the difference between both. I just, I really enjoy saying that prayer. And speaking of prayer, this podcast is not at all associated, affiliated, or even sponsored by any official nonprofit organizations such as Alcoholics Anonymous. That's right. This podcast is all starting off somewhere in my head, and it started a few months ago, and now we've been rolling on for 2-3 months? So thanks for watching. With that being said, we're also now officially sponsored by cruiserweight.ca. And when you put in the promo code SWD, as in Serenity Wins Discount 10, SWD 10, you will get a 10% discount for all your online shopping. And it's really simple. When you go to their website and you get your cart there, you put your stuff in the cart, they're going to ask you at one point for a promo code. You put that in, you get 10%. So, hey, if you want to save like $10, you only buy $100. If you want to save $1,000, you only buy $10,000 worth. It's great like that. There's no limit. And of course, if you want to save even more, you buy even more. And so he's my client, and we've been talking, and now it's been about a month or so now. He's officially been sponsoring the show. So we're full of gratitude for that. And normally I talk about the artist of the week. And so last episode, I talked about where I kind of go and get my fresh produce, my vegetables from a farm, right? Well, I went recently and I had such an amazing service, and the food was so good. I brought back this thing there, the paper thing, because I wanted to talk with them. First of all, I want to say shout out because it was actually after a meeting, and this lovely person who I'm getting to know more, she said, hey, we're going over for breakfast after. Do you want to come over? And I was like, I was completely honored. And I said, a little outside my comfort zone because I'm not used to like joining groups and, having breakfast at a table with like 10 people. But I bit the bullet and I said, yeah, I'm definitely going to go there. And so I went to this place. It's a fairly well-known place here in Saint-Sauveur where I do the meetings. And it's called Déjeuner AM breakfast. And I don't know if I'm doing justice with So if you happen to be in the area and it's on a Sunday or a Saturday or even during the weekday, it doesn't matter. Go there. It's really good. Coffee's really good. The food's really good. And you know why I wanted to specifically talk about this place? Their menu. Besides the fact that it's good, the pictures are representative of what your plate looks like. And to me, there are very few places that are actually doing that, right? You always see the great picture when you order, or whether it's in the menu or whether it's on the board in the back behind the counter. But here, what I saw in the menu was what I got in my plate. And for that, they definitely deserve a shout out. And hey, the service was amazing. Our waitress was always asking, do we have what we need? And they were full. They were packed. It was like we actually had to wait to sit down. And despite the fact that they were packed and full, we had great service, friendly smile, and excellent food. And the food that looked like it was in the menu. So here, you know what? There's a little, if you want to scan that, I don't know if I'm allowed doing that, but here. If you happen to see it on the video, if you're listening to the YouTube, why don't you take a look? And if you want to scan, there's a little QR code. I used to be completely against QR codes. I don't know if I'm for them now. I see how they can be helpful. It's just down the road. It's going to be, it's going to be a stamping, So, but maybe by then I'll be like, doing my own thing and I won't really care anymore. I don't know. But I happened to see it on the menu and I'm like, okay, people are used to scanning, so why not? I mean, if I'm doing promotion, why not do it properly? So here you go. If you're watching now, there's a promo scan. I don't know if you can scan it directly. Actually, I'm going to try that out. I'm going to scan it when I watch the movie. It's a movie. No, when I watch my podcast and I see this, of course, I have to stay still. All right. So they were really, it was a really good restaurant, and I really enjoyed the food and the service. And as far as I'm concerned, they do deserve a bit of a shout out. Now that we got the artist / restaurant / whatever of the week out of the way, let's get into today's topic. And this one is particular because it it kind of I kind of got this based on my spending time with O, but it also when I heard about one of the newcomers who basically had his permit revoked because he was caught, falling asleep in his car. I think I mentioned that a few episodes ago. It reminded me of when I, at one point, got my permit suspended for 3 months. And I suddenly stopped going to my neighborhood bar because I couldn't get there, right? And so at that time, I thought I was close to people. I thought I was like really like, getting to know people, and I was convinced. And I say I was convinced. I don't know if they were convinced, but I was convinced because we were drinking and sharing, and we'd be sharing the same stories over and over. But there was part of me that felt like I was getting close to them. And then I realized, looking back, excuse me, that there was no intimacy, like not wow, 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 romantic. I mean, just mean like intimacy. And so recently, I found myself in that same situation where, as I'm talking with her, excuse me, there's no intimacy. So we're talking, and we're getting close, but how close are we getting? And we literally said, like not even 2 weeks ago or a week ago, that none of us trusted the other person, right? And I know I have my challenge in trusting people is based on the way I was brought up and the things that I had to go through. And of course, as life progressed, you kind of just harden yourself. And in her case, she didn't get into details, but she did mention how she used to trust people and now she doesn't trust people. So what I gathered from that information was that her and I need more time to get to know each other. And that's, I think, the difference between getting close and being intimate. And an example that comes flying in my face, literally flying in my face, was my past relationship with my last girlfriend, my ex. And I realized that was exactly what was going on. We were close. Obviously, we were close. We were sharing a bed, and obviously, we did partake in the sexual pleasures, and we did enjoy it, and we were very good at it. But did we actually have intimacy? Like, I'm not talking like during the sex. I mean, like outside of the sex. Did we actually have intimacy? I don't think so. I don't think so. And excuse me, I'm gonna go get some more water. You can't get more water. You're on the show. I know I'm on the show, but clearly there's a cat stuck down my throat somewhere, and I don't have enough water. I only have this much water. So and I'm not gonna pause it. Oh yeah, it does give me the option of pausing. Do I pause it? No, I don't want to pause it. I you know what? I'd rather just I'll be like talking. And maybe you guys could. I'll even flip the microphone around. Okay, all right. Now you hear me? Okay, I'm gonna go get some water. I'm getting some water because I'm thirsty. I really need to drink some water. And I'm going to try to put in some good water too because I got some good water too. I'm a bit low on it, but I got some good water. All right. Can you hear me still? Do I sound like a crazy man? All right. Here we go. Full glass of water. back. All right. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back in the bed of my bird. I said I'm back in the saddle. Yeah. All right. Phoenix, you're just all over the place. I know, I'm all over the place. It's just insane how I'm all over the place. I don't know how to speaker gallery dynamic, multi-speaker immersive, sort by gallery, follows host, change theme, show non-viewer participants, full screen. I don't know how to do that. Meeting question, meeting summary. No, I'm sorry, I'm distracted there. I'm just trying to see how I can do the close-up on Zoom on my own, like focus and go, okay, do a close-up. Can you do a close-up, Zoom? No. It says chat, remove from toolbar. There's no chat there. All right, got distracted there. And I was such on a roll, like I was in my head, anyways, I was on a roll. All right, so you can be close to someone and not have any intimacy. And I think intimacy is the important word here because that's what makes all the difference. And sometimes saying to someone that you don't trust them or you don't trust them yet, that's the word I particularly use. I said, I don't trust you yet. Oh, meaning I don't know her well enough to say whether or not I can trust her. And I think that's just being upfront. It's being authentic. Rather than pretending that everything's okie dokie, I let people know exactly what I'm thinking. Maybe that's the autistic in me. Ha, 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 ha. I prefer being like that because at least in this manner, there's like no misunderstanding, right? And the same way when she said that she didn't trust me, I could tell because she also said it. She says, I don't know you well enough. How can I trust you? But at least from here, we have a place to build, right? We have building blocks. And I think if I would have had this conversation with my ex, maybe things would have been different. I say this, and yet I'm pretty sure things would not have been different. But at least I would have been aware of it. And it took me a long time because several months after I had moved in, it dawned on me that all the chaos and the animosity that I was receiving from her daughters was built on something that wasn't even caused by me. They were just reliving stuff that they had been living for years. And I was just like the excuse for them to kind of throw it on me. And I think if I would have had a better intimacy with my girlfriend, we would have been able to communicate that better with her own children. But because I lacked intimacy, we weren't able to do that. So we were close, but we weren't intimate. And I think you could use that in any, I mean, you could be at work, right? You could be close to your clients. You'd be close to your bosses. If you don't have the intimacy, then there's always that line. And I know some employers, for a fact, they want to keep that line. They don't want to be intimate because it skews the way that they begin to manage staff and whatnot. If I was to give an example, this week, one of my co-workers or co-client, because he was also a client, quote unquote, he was let go. We let go of his services. I don't need to get into the details of why, but he was let go. And although my client made the decision, I would have made the decision earlier. And I think the reason why he didn't make it earlier or sooner was probably because he was getting more intimate with that worker, with that coworker. And it's not that they were like going out and having beers together or not, but they shared. Obviously, the coworker had just recently gotten a new child. Does that make sense? He gotten a new child. Well, you got to get the child and then bond. So of course, he just had a newborn. So they would share that, right? Because my client also has a child. Yeah. So and and I think that probably clouded my client's judgment for maybe, you know, if not months, a certain amount of weeks. Because I specifically told my client, I said, look, I love the guy. He's a good guy. He's not efficient. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, And he was like, my client's like, oh, it's okay. It's like, but I think part of what my client was doing was stalling rather than facing the issue and saying, okay, let's take care of that now. He was like, oh, well, we'll just wait and wait and wait. So then what happens is, next thing you know, suddenly on the Thursday, he has no choice but to immediately let go said person. And now he's got to run around trying to find someone else to replace him very quickly. And I told him, I said, I want to be part of the decision making the next time around. And I think the intimacy that he had, quote unquote, with the coworker was certainly one of the factors that made the decision happen much later. And I ask myself, because if I'm being honest, right, part of being in the program is being 100% honest. I asked myself, did I at one point feel a certain jealousy between the relationship that my client had with this new worker? And I don't call it jealousy. I don't call it envy. I think part of what my coworker was good at, and I think that's why a lot of people like him, and he's a good guy, was his ease to communicate with people, his ease to talk about everything and nothing. And I think that was the difference. I have a challenge talking about everything and nothing, because if I don't have something worthy to speak, I don't say it. And that comes from a place of, and it's going to sound funny that I say it now, but it does come from a place of humility, where the need to just talk it's less and less present in my case. While I am like that, and I'm happy to be like that, I see the effects of others who have the capability of just talking about anything and nothing, because it kind of brings them closer to other individuals. But does it really bring them closer, or just kind of fills up the air? And within that lot of talking, there's like this attempt to cover up many insecurities. So while I witnessed these two buddies, getting buddy, I asked myself, and although I saw what was going on, I said, you know what? Eventually, the expression, give him enough rope. I want to be careful what I say. I don't even want to use that expression. If you let someone just be who they are, eventually people really get to see what they are and who they are. You don't have to point the finger at them. You don't have to even bring attention to them. It's just going to happen naturally. And in the case of my coworker, I saw that was taking place. I saw that was so. And it wasn't my position to remotely bring it up at all, unless, of course, it had to do with the tasks at hand and my supervising and making sure that the work was done. But outside of that, it wasn't my position to bring it up regularly to my client. I did bring it up every now and then when it was appropriate. And so this week he was let go, and I realized that even though I'm not necessarily close to my client, I do have some form of intimacy because we're able to talk. We're able to talk about his business, and we were able to talk. I mean, I share, obviously, shout out to Cruiserweight. They're sponsoring this podcast, and that I don't think would have been doable, or it wouldn't have been done if we didn't have that intimacy. But sometimes people mix being close to someone with intimacy. And I'm the first one to raise my hand and say, I've done that in the past. Will I do that again? I certainly hope not, but I cannot predict the future. So it's also the reason why, for instance, when I go singing karaoke, I mean, I talk, I'm social, but I've learned I don't get into deep conversations simply because I don't know where these people are going to be. And remember, when I lost my permit a few years ago for 3 months, everyone who I thought was close to me, no one gave me a word, a peep, or whatever. So now that I'm hanging out in this new karaoke place, well, it was an old karaoke place. Now that I'm hanging out there, singing in a few hours a week, I'm not saying that I'm distant. I'm saying that I'm reserved. And those who will merit my intimacy will find it, right? If you merit my intimacy, you'll find it. But if you just happen to be close to me, that's different than meriting my intimacy. And I say this because recently I got a haircut. You can't tell right by the hat, but I really like it. It reminds me of my Iroquois roots, right, in the past life, for those of you who may believe in these things. And so I shaved my head, but I kept like the back hair. And so this person who's often there, she was like chatting with me, and she goes, "Oh, did you ever think about shaving your head and this and that?" And I said, first of all, not only did I think about it, but many years ago, that's all I did. But then I was tired of seeing everyone with a shaved head. I was like, I don't want to be a Kiwi head. Oh, there you go. There's my hair. There's my hair. Look, there's my hair. Yeah. And so I had this crazy idea. I said, you know what? I'm going to do like a mohawk kind of thing and everything. So then I talked with the wise man. I call him the wise man. Sergey. Let's call him Sergey. I said, "Can I call you Sergey?" He's like, "Yeah, you can call me Sergey." And he happened to be like, he's retired now, but he like was into like the hair and stuff and everything. And so he said, "Yeah, you just do this and that." So he actually came with me to the barber that he'd referred me. And so there were like two of them kind of discussing how talking about how my hair is going to be and this and that. And I was honored, really. I was honored. Anyways, we had a good time. We laughed and everything. And I got a great haircut. I love it. Whatever people think, honestly, I don't care. And if you were there on the episode where I talked about that girl who said, "I just got my hair cut," and I kind of said, "Yeah, I prefer women with longer hair," and how she started snobbing me from that moment on, which, by the way, I went to eat there last week, and the same reaction. She's like, just very distant. But what I said was true, because if she really loved her hair, whatever I said would not affect her, because when people tell me, I don't care. I love it. I really don't care. So this person from the karaoke, she texts me, she goes, "Oh, did you ever think about, because, maybe shaving your head, it'll be different, it'll look better, blah, blah." And so I responded, and was it harsh? Was it intense? Maybe. I don't know, but it was genuine. I said, "I like how exactly did I say it?" I said something like, "Well, that's exactly because she was kind of hinting that if I shaved my head, I might attract more people or something like that." And I responded, I said, like, fully shave my head. That's what she. And I responded, "Well, that's exactly." And by the way, she's been in a relationship now, she says, for like 18 years, right? So she's off the market. And we joke about that every now and then. I said, "Well, that's exactly the point. I'm not interested in attracting people like you, right? I got my hair, and so it's been silent on Messenger now since. So I don't know if she took it personally. I was simply stating that whatever she thought didn't really make a difference in my life. And I wasn't going to go, oh, you know what? Maybe you're right. And maybe because she's a pretty woman, maybe she's used to having people saying, oh, you're right. I should do that. And I just responded, you know what? And I even said, I don't want to attract people like you, right? Stipulating that she's in a relationship. But maybe she took it another way. I don't know. Maybe she thinks she's French or something. I don't know. But so did I lack a bit of tact? Perhaps. Maybe. I don't know. But that was my way of saying we don't have intimacy. So whatever she has to say about my hair does not affect me. Even though we're close in the sense that when we do meet each other at the bar, the karaoke, we talk, we share, how was your week? Yeah, this and that, blah, 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 blah. But there's no intimacy. And so this goes also back to, so when we talk more and more and we share. And until there's that intimacy that builds up, I guess we're both on our guards, which is normal. So how does this relate to an alcoholic? I think it relates to, it's something that I heard today. And she's, the challenge with an alcoholic is that they're obsessive, right? And I think holding my drumsticks. Oh wow! As I drum, there's a zoom in. Maybe that's how I get to zoom in. I agree with that. I agree that as an alcoholic, you become very, and that's what got you to drink, right? Because you didn't want just one drink, you wanted another drink, you didn't want another drink. And even if in my case, for instance, I didn't obsess over the drinking, I have moments where I can be obsessive. I've learned to curb that and to understand it. But being an alcoholic and the obsession could mean that sometimes we make bad judgment calls. So we think we're close to someone. We think, oh, wow, we share these two stories and this and wartime stories and this and dating stories and now we're close. But in reality, we haven't really built that intimacy. So we're not that close. And I think that had I understood this lesson, I don't want to say many years ago, but yeah, many years ago, I may have suffered less. I may have. And maybe there's someone out there who's suffering and they can relate to this. The fact that, trusting people, you pass money. Or what about buying drinks for everyone? You're like, oh yeah, I'm buying drinks for everyone. Obviously, this is insecurity and you want to buy people's love, but you're also thinking that you're getting closer to them. Oh, I'm gonna offer them a drink to say thank you and this and that. But in the end, you're not really doing all that. You're just kind of wasting time, and until you realize that you're just doing that because there's part of you that feels so much like a little turd, like a little piece of something that came out of a chihuahua's butt, right? But you want to hide that so much and so desperately that you put in the big airs and you're like, yo, and then you're like this and that. And yeah, we're close, we're intimate, this and that, and blah, blah. Even when you meet people, when I meet people in the meeting, I never know how to shake hands with them. I don't. Before I did meetings, I basically was myself in my little home. Once in a while, I go work at the client. Maybe I train my client, But now here I am, on Sundays, there's 200 people, and how do I greet them? Do I know this person? A firm handshake. This person he's a hug, or he started off as a handshake, but now he's reaching over for the hug. I don't. So I kind of always wing it, and then I'm like, okay, is this person intimate with me, or are we just close? Do we, obviously, if they heard me share or I heard them share, then we could understand each other a bit better. But does that make us closer? And I think that this is a good question that if you're in the movement and you're listening, or if you're a person that's struggling with, consumption, distraction, be it alcohol, sex, drugs, video games, this is something that it bears. Thank you for the heart. Appreciate that very much. I'm still with the people on TikTok there. I'm still with the people on TikTok there, Thank you. Much appreciated. So, and it's the subject that came across to me the other day because I realized that I wasn't even intimate with my own family. My own family is not intimate with me. And the family that's quote unquote adopted me, my childhood friends and whatnot, we're very close. Oh, wow, the camera just switched over like that. That's pretty cool. But we're not intimate. We're not intimate because we are unable to speak real things. And if you're not able to communicate real emotions, what's the point? Especially if I've known you for over 30 years or if I've known you for 10 years. If we're not able to really say what's on our mind, what's the point? And I think that is gradually taking place in my world, in my head. And these are the relationships that I want to build from now on. I want to build intimate relationships, whether they're with my clients, whether they're with my girlfriends, whether they're with my friends, because that's priceless. You can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on understanding that someone understands you or you understand someone just as well. And that comes through intimacy. And in my case, it's a hard lesson. It's even hard to admit. It's even hard to put words onto because I've only discovered this like this week. When I thought about the episode, actually no, that was 2 weeks ago. When I thought about this, I was like, well, do you really have a topic there? Intimacy and closeness. And I'm like, yeah, I think I do. Well, I think I do, but it's not for everyone. You gotta show what's inside. You gotta go, whoa, yippity yappity yay. All right, I made that one up, but I'm working on it. And I don't know where Batman is. Batman isn't around today for some reason. He's like, I'm taking well, that doesn't sound like Batman. I'm taking a rest. I'm at the Bat Beach. Is there a Bat Beach? Yes, there is. There's a Bat Beach. All right. You enjoy there, Batman. I will. All right. So, intimacy, and I think intimacy is also something that you build on respect, on mutual respect and trust, right? If you don't trust the person enough to be able to share with them intimate details of your life, and you know what? It's a perfect subject to talk about today because today was the first day that I met the newcomer who's asking me to sponsor them. And he shared a lot of personal things with me. Did he share everything? Probably not. And that's all right because we just met for the first time. Like we saw each other before, but we just agreed to do the journey together. And did I share a lot of personal things? I shared some. Did I share everything? Of course not. Because you want to build trust. And I think that's one of the things in particular that I respect in the movement is that What's in Vegas stays in Vegas. So whatever is shared within, whether it's a person at the conference table sharing their experience, or whether it's just a one-on-one kind of after before meeting, we know that whatever we do decide to share, it's, as George would say from, Jerry Seinfeld, it's in the vault. And that to me is something I never had before. I always had a doubt, is this person going to use this information against me? I remember, uh, I don't want to even say my ex. I think my exes would say that. They said, as soon as we give you information, you use it against us. And I don't think I used it against them. I think I bring it up because I'm aware. What they're not aware of is at least 75% of the time, if not 80, if not more, but let's say I was already aware of their pattern. I just never actually brought it up. But once they bring it up, that kind of gives me permission to say, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And the same thing with me. Once I'm aware of it, we're able to say, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And it's the sense of when you're having an open and honest conversation, there are less boundaries. I mean, you still have boundaries, but you're just naturally, you open the gates and you allow yourself. And whatever happens, happens because you feel, you sense, or you know that you're in that safe space with the person you're talking to, with, I should say. And that doesn't happen. In my case, it hasn't happened very much in my life. And I'm pretty sure that someone's struggling, someone's suffering. I was talking with a friend today, and he was telling me how, I don't want to hear depressing stories, and that's why I don't want to go to a meeting because, they're all depressive stories and this and that. And I've heard it once or twice, and I told him, I said, they're far from being depressive story. They're stories that are inspiring. Now, do we get to hear stories of how at one point a person didn't want to live anymore and considered the idea of taking their life out? Yes. I won't, to say the opposite would be a lie. But those are reminders of how the person chose to live. Those are reminders of how, despite the fact that they were in such a dark place that they didn't want to continue breathing anymore, they found that faith. They found that breath, that gasp of air that allowed them to continue. And I'm saying this because I was there myself. Many years ago, I was there myself. And whenever I think about it, I remember how lucky I was because at that time, oddly enough, I also had a friend, and her name was also Aurélie. Oddly enough, it was Aurelia. Sorry, Aurelia. And she was able to not talk me out of it, because I mean, I was down, I was desperate, I was lying on my kitchen floor naked. I don't know if I'd gotten out of the shower or whatever, and then there was like these chef knives around me, and it, out of desperation, I was able to call her. And of course, she soothed me immediately. And then she said, come on over and everything. And I went over to her place and we talked. And there was definitely a sense of intimacy there because obviously, And moments like that in my personal life are very few. Because even sometimes when you're making love to a woman, is it an intimate moment? Yes. Is it a sexual, intense moment? Yes. But is it an intimate moment? Not all the time. And I'm not talking about the one night stand. Hey, baby, what's your name again? Yeah, let's go. Yeah, who's your daddy? Yeah, just slap that ass. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something. Oh my goodness, where do we go with the Serenity wins? I don't know who's going to sponsor the show, but it'll be interesting. I'm talking about in some very close moments. Because truth be told, I also had moments where I didn't know the person that well, but she and I definitely had an intimate moment. And then I've had moments where I knew the person very well, and somehow there was always a veil. There was a veil. It's like in their eyes. You could see, well, I don't know if you can see, but I certainly would see it in their eyes. When you're making love, you see it in the eyes. Are they there? Are we there? Are we connected? Or is like their head moving all over the place? And oh, sure, they're getting to orgasm, or at least that's what you want to believe, whatever. But and to me, that it's so important. And so the difference between intimacy and being close is primordial. It's a huge thing. And from now on, I shouldn't say from now on, but yeah, from now on, I'll see the difference. And if I see that there's not an intimacy, I will find out how can we build together the intimacy, because that's also the key. You don't happen from one to the other overnight. It doesn't go from A to B. And, you always have steps, and you have, trust that's built, and, actions, and, more than words. In my case, it's actions. What are the actions that person is doing right now that makes me go, oh, yes, I can trust this person, or no, I cannot trust this person, or I don't know yet. So observing the actions is also part of the process. Because the intimacy is not a one-time deal. It's not an overnight thing. It probably takes a long time. And maybe, I'm saying in my case, I would jump the gun because, as I mentioned, I wasn't even intimate with my own family and maybe even my childhood friends. And so maybe when I would meet someone, there would be like this insecure pressure that I'd put on these people to be close to me as quickly as possible, like to have intimacy, because it was like I needed it. There was a part of me that was like, hey, maybe we could be really close, because when I was growing up, I didn't really have brothers and sisters, and and although I had really close friends, we weren't really, there was always a veil of something. And so now that you're new and I'm new, maybe now we could and I believe that that's also what I'm learning through the fellowship, because you start to see a member, and then they start to share, and then you start to see them again, and next thing you know, if you go to the same meetings, then you see them over and over and over. While you can't jump the gun and say, hey, now we're best buddies, we're best friends, because that would just like alienate someone and go, what the heck is wrong with this person? You do have a tendency, or at least I do, because I'm an alcoholic and I can be obsessive, to start to think, hey, maybe we are becoming best friends. Maybe we can hang out. And I'm like, no, that's your mind. Your mind is going somewhere. Where? But I don't know. You want to make sure that the mind. You know what? I'm going to keep imitating him based on the same text that I'm practicing over and over, and then slowly. I do want to know in your comments, whenever and if ever I can get real comments, has it improved? Has my Christopher Walken improved from, say, not this episode, or the episode just before this one, because obviously I taped it, but from last week. Like if you hear last week, Christopher Walken, and this week, do you see a difference? Can you write that down somewhere? Maybe you can write it on the Facebook page. Oh, I should check and see if even my Facebook has been adjusted. If my Facebook page, because I changed the spelling, and now it's important that I see if the spelling is corrected. And then why do I do that while I'm on the podcast? I don't know. I'm just doing things as I go along. Oh, yeah! Woohoo! Serenity wins with a Z on Facebook. Now, I know you're thinking, well, what's the big deal? Well, to me, it is a big deal because for a while it had an S. And obviously, if you want continuity, you're like, well, you don't have continuity. So now it's got a Z. All right, cool. All right, so you're just all over the place, man. It's hard to listen to your show. No, it's not. Hey, guess what? 52 minutes. So I've actually been able to talk about this topic. And I'm pretty sure I touched on several subjects based on that topic, so I haven't repeated myself too much. We'll find out when I get to listen to myself, because I always do that. I like to listen to the show and say, okay, how was that? So let me get right into the closing of the show, because, oh! I didn't, you see what I mean by obsessive? I didn't even talk about our, did I? No, I did talk about the sponsor at first, right? Yeah, I did. Okay. Whew, did that. All right. So let's go right into closing the show. So let's talk about the 12-step program. And I said today, we'll talk about step number 5 because it's very appropriate because, well, let me read it to you and you'll understand why. Number 5, we admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, right? So when you have a sponsor, they help you go through the steps, which is what I'm doing now, and as I did with my sponsor, and at one point we share with them the nature of our wrongs, like the bad shit, like the crazy things and the hurtfulness that we may have done to others and all that stuff. And so now I'm going to be in a position somewhat soon, to hear step number 5 from my newcomer. And in French, on dit filleul because the sponsor is le parrain. I don't know what would be, if it's sponsor, then it's the, I don't know what word it is. So that's step number 5. Let me repeat that one more time. Step number 5, we admit it to God, right? Always, you can start with yourself. There's no, I don't think there's an order, but I think at least with yourself and then to God, or to God and then yourself, those kind of work. And to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. And hey, let's do a promise, because obviously we didn't do a promise last one because I forgot. I just forgot to do the promise, but now we're going to do a promise. We're going to do, this one's good too. The fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. Yes. Yes. The fear of people, right? I talked about intimacy. I talked about closeness. I talked about how usually I let people stay the fuck away from me. Oh, did you just say the F word? I did. All right. Well, as time progresses and as I evolve and advance, I realize I'm able to communicate more. Remember when I started off this show about the breakfast place, right? Remember the breakfast place? Well, that was definitely about allowing myself to join a group of people and to talk and to, eat breakfast. It was like afternoon, but I was breakfast, and I did have some reservations in the sense that I perhaps fear is a big word, but I pushed myself to go to go there. First of all, because just the fact that another member had thought of inviting me, to me that was like, okay, that actually it touched an emotion. Which emotion I can't say yet, but it touched something. And so I had to say yes because I knew that that was an unknown area for me, like not like the geography, I'm talking like emotionally. And you only get better when you go into the unknown, right? It's when we go into the unknown that we grow, that we become a better human being. And as I mentioned to my JD, about 2 years ago or so, when I was lying in my bed, sick as a dog, if you help me get through this, I will be a better version of myself and I will spread your word. Literally, spread your word. Now, did I say, and I'm even going to open the church every now and then, and I'm even going to hang out for 3 months in the room where all the priests do their crazy thing? I didn't say that. This is like a bonus thing. He said, you know what? I trust you to spread the word, and I even trust you to open the door to the church to let the people walk in. There you go. So yeah, so the fear of people and economic insecurities will leave us. And that's step number 10. Sorry, promise number 10. All right. So now we're going to finish with once more the Serenity Prayer. Dear God, give me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change those that I can, and the wisdom to understand the difference between both. Yeah. Hey, I want to say, if you go to cruiseaway.ca, right? Cruiseaway.ca, and you do any shopping over there on their online store for Canadian shoppers only, when you go into your cart, there's going to be a place where there's a code that you could put in. If you put in SWD, as in Serenity Wins Discount, with a 10, all capital letters, you will get a 10% discount. So if you buy $100, you're saving $10. If you buy $1,000, you're saving $100. And guess what? If you buy $10,000, you're saving $1,000. That's like, and it's great furniture, beautiful furniture, teak wood, imported from Indonesia. Go check out the site. You'll see for yourself. It's beautiful, amazing stuff. And finally, this podcast is not sponsored, associated, or affiliated with any non-profit organization such as Alcoholics Anonymous. That's right. This Serenity Wins podcast is a brainchild from this human who happens to also be an alcoholic. And I was going to say ex-alcoholic, but I can't because, I have obsessive personality and I need to remind myself that, drinking doesn't do me well. And it's not a matter that drinking doesn't do me well like most alcoholics will say, oh, just fucking lose everything. No, most probably I could go back to drinking socially, be responsible, but then all the shit that I've been cleaning, that I've been letting go, would just flow back. It would just take one shooter glass of alcohol. That's all it takes for me to just feel like fucking. And I remember not last episode, but the episode before that, and I actually even said this to my newcomer. I said that I was ashamed because a few episodes ago, I was thinking maybe I'd be a better assistant, sponsor, whatever you want to call it, if I did take that drink, because then I would understand people who do a relapse. But then I realized, no, what if I was just one of them? Because there are others in the movement that once they join, they didn't have a relapse because they just did what, and maybe that's also the inspiration that others need to see. Yes, you see someone who's relapsed, you can relate to that and go, I understand that. But at the same time, if you see someone who's done the program, who's doing it, who's just following step by step continually, that's also inspiring. And this is what the show is all about, right? Serenity Wins. So Do it well for the self. Do it with respect for the all. Do it with the intention of humanity's love. Thanks for liking and sharing. Subscribe. Leave your comments. I'll get to them eventually. And I want to wish you all a terrific week or a few days if you happen to be listening to the other show and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I'll see you on our next episode. Cheers and thank you, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. Let me try that again. Cheers and thank you, everyone.